In a game like Raid Shadow Legends with 10 or 11 million different champions, always new champions being added, power creep is inevitable. Who are the most power-crept legendaries in Raid? Let's get into it. How the heck are you guys? I am Fastidious, and I am joined for a very interesting, very fun video today by a phenomenal guest, Mr. YST. How you doing?
How's it going? Do you know what? One thing that I really like is that you kept that intro from like 2020, 2021, like the how the heck are you? That's
Yeah,
you used to have that intro. It was like a typewriter, right? And it would be like fastidious and the reason. Do you still use that?
I do. Yeah, I've changed the
Oh,
background. I
cool.
actually need to make a Raid Shadow Legends one, but for Watch of Realms, it's like a cool cinematic we have from the game, but it's the same exact audio and the same. I just updated the font, but it's the same typewriter thing.
But no, I appreciate you having me on. Like this is well overdue. Like we've been speaking about this, like we mentioned over my channel, like 2021, 2022. And then obviously you went to Watcher of Realms and then now you're back to Raid. So it's really cool to kind of, full circle and get around to it finally.
It is, man. So yeah, in this video, we are going to do something kind of very in line with our shared story because we're kind of Raid OGs, or at least, many years ago we go back, and we're going to talk about the champions you feel have been the most power crept. So like, I probably thought they were the GOAT back in 2021, but now you're like, son, welcome back. It's 2025. Get with the program. They're only mid now, that kind of thing. So I pitched it to you. You're pretty hyped on it. I think it will be really cool. We just filmed a huge collab on your channel. So you guys, and when I say huge, I mean huge. It was like over an hour long. So you guys got to go check that out. Do you want to kind of pitch that to everybody? Because I think it was going to be really good.
Yeah, it was a really cool one. So we're basically speaking about if we was to start the game over again, which pretty much we both are through our series, right? Yours with the low spender account and mine with the free to play. Is if we had to start a fresh account, which epic from every faction would we want the most if Raid was to just give us them all as like a dream gift?
It was really fun, and I learned a lot. So especially if you just came over from Watch of Realms with me, or you're just new to Raid Shadow Legends, first things first, use my link in the description. Don't want to miss out on those 4 free amazing heroes. Let's actually say 2 of them, actually 3 of them came up in the video on YST's channel. They're that good. But also, you might not know a lot of the stuff we talked in this video because I didn't. I was learning the whole time, so definitely go check it out. We'll have the link to that video and to YST's channel in the description and that top comment. But without further ado, we're talking power creep. What has changed since our humble beginnings in 2020, 2021?
Oh.
What's going on? Who has been crept?
Well, I guess like the power creep in general, before we get into the champions, like, we've got relics in the game and blessings and champion empowerments. There's so much layers of power creep and the relics and the extra stats and gear ascension. So just in general, the game just feels like
You didn't even mention this whole situation.
Yeah, mythicals, there's so much of it in the game. So just in general, you can probably do stuff a lot more crazier than we could have back then. That's for starters, I guess. But I guess the first champion I'm going to highlight, and I might annoy some people today, but you know what? It's fine. I want to get the bus for some of these champions. Rosin Scarhide. We're all familiar with this dude.
He was, I'd say by the time I was like finishing up playing, he was still hype, but not like the biggest hype. When I started playing, like we're talking November 2019, everyone's like, the goal is see how fast you can get Rosin because he is going to be the god of your account.
He's fallen off, yeah. I think like even when you spoke about Ruella, right? That's an epic champion bringing decreased defense, weaken, and decreased speed. And then I feel like the kind of thing is shifted where Lydia the Death Siren's the straight out substitute. You beat faction wars and you've got yourself a strong AoE, decreased defense, weaken, and all of the crazy stuff she brings for a champion. And for me, yes, the A2 still has value. You talk about clan boss and stuff like Eris Demiffer teams. He's a great force DPS, so Eris doesn't get stunned. But, that A3, it's a 6-turn cooldown to decrease the turn meter.
Yeah.
When you talk about, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this dude, Amans the Magnificent, who came in as a fusion last year.
I'm only familiar because people keep saying like, the current fusion, Esme, like she's fine, but she's no Armands. That's what everyone keeps saying.
Pretty much he came in and said to all of these turn meter manipulators, these stun champions, get the heck out of here. There's a new boy in town because on the I believe it's the A3. Oh, no, it's the A2, sorry. Steals all the turn meter from each target, except enemies and the sheep, and places a stun on them as well on a 3-turn cooldown. So you're stealing this. You're almost granting an immediate extra turn. And then before you know it, he's doing it again and doing it again. And he's one of the few champions that can actually put a champion to sheep and removes all buffs from enemies. And when you talk about his A2 and Razin's A3, it's like night and day. They're in different worlds. you know, in
Yeah,
comparison to
because
10
this is
meter drop.
effectively like a 2-turn cooldown. We kind of touched on this on your channel because yes, it's a 3-turn cooldown with books, but he's gonna steal enough turn meter if there's even like 2 or 3 enemies alive that he gets to go immediately again. So he's almost like an extra turn champion in that respect, right?
Yeah, and in live arena, when you see him pop up in his high blessings and all the crazy stuff he does, he's getting insta banned, man. So yeah, I think since Oman's came in, and I think just champions in general, there's just a lot better champions that manipulate turn meter better than Rosin. And I think to keep up with the times, definitely needs a buff, bring down those cooldowns, maybe give him something else on the A1. I don't know, but he definitely needs a rework because he's just not changed at all since his release.
It's weird you say that and that I feel this way. Maybe you're just that good at explaining it to me, but he does all of a sudden feel old. If someone like that exists and then here is Rosin and they're like, well, you know, decreased turn meter is so strong. Of course it needs to be a 6-turn cooldown. And then this boy's doing it with all the other stuff and the crazy passive at a 2-turn
Yeah.
cooldown. It's kind of like a slap in the face to our little lizard boy over here. Kind of what I'm hearing is, of course, you're still going to fuse him, but there's no rush. Maybe you like time it out with the champ chase, take your time, don't lose any sleep over it kind of thing.
Yeah, because if we just head into Lydia very briefly, obviously
Sure.
she came in for the final reward for Faction Wars. And it's just night and day, right? We're getting increased speed, decreased defense, weaken, block active skills, like the fears on the A1.
I
we
can't
talk
even
about
keep
Chimera,
up with all the, I can't even find the skills. There's so many things going on. Yeah, she's crazy.
preempting the revives with the passive. Like, you know,
Wow.
just compare
Yeah.
them, you know, and they're both free champions that you're going to get over time. So
I guess the
it's just about weighing
argument
up the
would be most people will use Rosin to get Lydia, right? Because you get her as the reward for Faction Wars. I would think Rosin still has play in Lizardman Faction Wars, right?
yeah, listen, man, he's still a pretty good champion, right? Like for me, on my main account, sometimes I use him in Curse City, but honestly, it's because there's no better options available in for those
Yeah.
teams, you know.
I guess the other strong point is he's not a crazy reader, but I mean, this isn't a small amount of books, right? We're talking 9, 12 books.
Mhm.
If you with the Armands and the Lydias of the world, maybe you do just hyper focus him without skill ups. Think of him as like he'll just help me get through Faction Wars kind of champion, which is sad because Rosin was he actually had just been added as a permanent fusion when I started playing. Cool to see he's still there. For anyone that doesn't know, you can get all your 16 rares and then your 4 epics, or maybe you pull the epics and you can fuse Rosin Scarhide or Scarhide, excuse me, over here.
Yeah.
That's sad to hear. Who else is going to depress me?
All right, this is going to depress me as well, honestly, because I still use the champion. But it has to be said, and people that watches my channel knows I don't really speak about these kind of topics. So I was actually very excited about this one. It's Duchess Lilitu.
No
Can you
way.
believe it?
No. Are you're
Yeah.
just going for the clickbait? You just want to give me a good thumbnail?
No, I'm being genuinely serious. I feel like she's been power-crept, yeah.
That is so Duchess. Even when I left, so like I played all through 2021 very seriously, and then 2022 I still played fairly casually. Even when I left, probably the start of 2023, she was still the little queen. Am I in the wrong? Oh, she's Demon Spawn, isn't she?
Demon Spawn, yeah.
My mistake. She kind of has that dark elf look to her though, with that purple. She was still
Yeah.
the queen, and she was definitively would have been my most wanted champion to pull. So you're gonna have to sell me on this one.
Yeah, so obviously, full transparency, I'm not saying that any of these champions we mentioned today are trash. I'm just saying that people have come in over time and maybe doing what they do to a better value. And the reason is, if we just head into that A3, first of all, right, we've got a reviving of all dead allies, which is huge. But one thing that you'll notice is there's no turn meter fill in this ability. So you're bringing them back pretty much raw, right? And for them to, there's so many kind of revivers that bring them back with, even Dawncaller Sabbather, who's an epic, 100% turn meter, or White Queen and Cora with the turn meter fills. I just feel like she needs to have some, maybe 40%, 50% to just get them into the race. Aside that, that's obviously fine. I think the main reason she got power crept for me is, as a perfect Veil champion, there's champions like Firo the Barkhorn from the Sylvan Watchers, and also Feedy Tealcrest from the Lizardman, that are just better perfect Veil champions overall for Hydra boss.
Really?
Yeah, so if we
We'll
just
have
head
to
into the
give them
Sylvan
a-
Watchers.
Well, actually, I was just saying before we head over there, like the thing with me for Duchess always was like, yes, the no turn meter, but they're still veiled. They're getting the heals. They're almost full health. It is an AoE heal because you said Sabbatha. She has a single target heal, right? So not exact
Yes.
apples to apples. Combine that with the fact that she's putting out the really major major buffs, especially that perfect veil with the block debuff. So, extra mitigation, and you're not getting the nasty debuffs on you. And then it's the passive, right? That's kind of what I always thought it was. It's just, but you're saying that's still not enough because she's slowing your team down.
Of course, like one thing with the passive as well is there's a lot of dominant single target nukers, and she only mitigates from AoE attacks. And obviously, with stuff like Stone Skin in the game, and so many other things, you can reduce that even with like Harima's passive, like ignore defense effects. There's so many ways to reduce incoming damage. I guess like one comparable reviver, we spoke about it beforehand, is Ursula the Mourner, right? She's an epic champion, bringing reviving all dead allies with 75% HP, and fills their 10 meters by 50% from the Banner Lords. And, to me, this is a better revival than Duchess, if you really think about it. So, yeah, for me, the revival element, definitely there's champions that can do it better. But then if we head into the Sylvan Watchers, into Firol the Barkhorn, he's the tree dude.
Wow, so that's what a gem. Look at this guy.
He's amazing. Looks-wise and kit-wise. When we talk about power creep, we're heading to that A3. So we've got increased resistance, perfect veil, right? On a 4-turn cooldown. And increased resistance is so powerful for reducing the debuffs coming your way. And then heading into the A2, we've got an AoE block buffs with decreased accuracy. And now you're reducing the stats so much that you're not taking any debuffs, but also blocking their debuffs, right? But this is where it all comes to effect for me. In the passive, he increases your resistance by 50, your accuracy by 50, and all of the damage your allies deal by 20% straight out. You build him in a 9-piece protection. You're pushing this further. Now, when we start talking about Perfect Veil champions now, he is bringing literally everything you want for a Hydra team. Duchess is only bringing Perfect Veil, right? And it's just night and day of the contrast between the two, and it's just, you just can't compare them.
Yeah, if you bring this guy and then just like a Rector Drath, like or Sabbatha, you don't need an AoE healer. Everyone's not dying, an AoE reviver, because everyone's not going to be needing to be revived. I mean, if they're not taking any debuffs, if they're getting the mitigation from the perfect veil, all this crazy stuff, and then they're getting stacking all of this. I mean, wow, yeah, this is truly a champion I've never seen or heard of before. But is he considered like very S tier?
He's S tier, yeah. And this was kind of the start of Duchess getting pushed in the backline for Perfect Veil, because many people that's been around for ages knows there wasn't a big amount, which is why Duchess was so highly regarded. And like I mentioned before, I still use Duchess in my arena team. She's great for damage reduction, all the things we mentioned. But for stuff like Hydra specific, there's just these champions coming in that just does it way better than she does, And if we just head into another option, like
I miss the decreased speed with all the things you were saying. This guy has this. I've got to pull it. We both should pull this guy, I think.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. From the Lizardman, we've got a Void champion in Fasti on the bottom right on the legendaries. Yep. So once again, if we just head into the A3, increased resistance, perfect veils, decreasing the cooldown of ally active skills, by the way, by 3 turns. It's like a Yumiko and a Duchess and a Firol thrown into one in one ability. It's crazy. And then on this A2, we've got an AoE before attacking removes all buffs from all enemies and decreased speed and block buffs and 10 meter fills. Like, come on, it's just crazy the amount of stuff these champions are bringing, right?
And she's even HP based. I'm assuming she doesn't do a lot of damage, but at least she might do a little because of that. So she kind of is. So this is I guess it's a void legendary, so it makes sense. But this is even another level, probably.
Yeah, like I always have that kind of discussion with my community of, is Fasti better than Firol? But Duchess is never even in that conversation. So this is where I say, like, with the power creep for arena specific, yes, Duchess can still be good, but I'm definitely seeing more like turn meter field champions cycling your turns rather than the slow approach and just slugging it out.
I guess in Duchess's defense, like, these guys are much better as like support perfect veil heroes, but champions, but they don't have revive, at least. So at least she has something unique.
Yeah, 100%. The other part is like with stuff like Hydra, her AoE damage reduction is only 15% against bosses. So the true value is obviously coming from PvP for that damage reduction. And you could just put a strengthen on your team and it's going to outperform the damage reduction anyway from Duchess's passive, right? And she's not bringing any other debuffs for the boss. She's throwing up block debuffs, which can be stolen and spread from Head of Mischief. I guess everything I'm speaking about is kind of Hydra specific.
In general, there are other options than Duchess, and especially in Hydra, she's been power crept as a perfect veiler kind of
Yeah,
top
that's my
top
angle. I wouldn't
option.
say like, yeah, they're all good in their own
You're
rights.
not.
Maybe
Yeah, she's
Duchess.
not. Duchess is not a bad hero. She's not a
No,
bad
no, not by
champion.
any stretch. I still use it on my main account every day in my defense teams on live arena, right? So she's
Yeah.
still usable.
I just want to ask about Fidi. Like to me, this is reading as crazy as a new champion kit as I've read. Is this like a definitive top Void Legendary, or are there that many good new ones?
There is, yeah, there's a lot of good ones. But I think
This is
when you speak about Perfect Veil, I think he's as good as it comes. He's up there for sure.
this is kind of blowing my mind right now.
It's blowing my mind as well. I'm scared of the comment section after this one. Bad-el-Kazar. I'm sorry, dude. I can see by your face you're not happy with this one.
Because I had him too. So now you're coming for me. All right, definitely light up YST in the comments. He's what we call a literal villain. Bad-el-Kazar, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Okay, explain yourself.
I'll give my reasons for each one. It's not like for no particular reason. So obviously, with the implementation of hard mode dungeons, poisons are now ineffective against the ice golem, right? Because the boss is just immune to poisons now. So I guess for the progression of a player's account, you don't require these solo 25 ice golem teams anything past progression. In my opinion. And for that reason alone, he is still very good for progression, great for Dragon, still holds that value. We've had champions like Nishak Vermidlord come in the game, Theodore for Poison Explosion, Stock the Broken, who's basically Bad-el-Kazar on steroids, right? Stoutest Dragonbane. These are champions for me that just does what he does or even better. I would say in the realm of still a very good champion, maybe not the best champion anymore for poisons.
Let me just quickly, I would love to look at some of those options you just named that kind of have pushed him down a bit. But just to explain why I used him so much, I was so high on him, why he was, when I first started playing, like 2019, he was like top 5 legendary in the whole game, that level.
Yep.
But so just for anyone new, basically this A2 over here is a full cleanse on a 3-turn cooldown, places 2 15% continuous heals, so all allies will get healed whenever their turn starts by 30% of their health, and then 2 poison debuffs on the enemies. So he's just stacking poisons. Then he's got an AoE here on the basic attack, the A1. It's going to heal himself a little bit extra. It's got that really cool effect if you've ever seen him do it, where it kind of looks like he's like siphoning off from them. And then this passive, extra damage to targets under poison. If you need it, you've got a create all battle, which is really good for general progression, but you'll obviously outgrow. But essentially, he could solo all the content because, he's putting continuous heals on himself. He's doing extra damage to poisons. He's putting out poisons. He's doing heals, and it just rinse and repeat. So basically, you're saying poisons have become ineffective specifically in Ice Golem or elsewhere?
No, just Ice Golem. I guess Ice Golem hard. In the normal version, still very, very optimal. But champions have come in that I think just does things, speeds up the process, I would say, is the better term to put it. And one would be a recent fusion in Stock the Broken from the Ogrin tribes.
I saw that Bront had a video on this guy. It was one of the first raid videos I watched when I came back.
Yeah, so this Dobby from Harry Potter, as I like to call him.
He does look like Dobby.
Yeah, if you read that A3, you'll see where I'm going with this. Yeah. So he's got a 100% chance of placing 2 5% poisons, and if any targets are under burn, will place 3 5% poisons, and a weaken, and 2 continuous heals. This is bringing you extra debuffs of weaken. You're still getting the continuous heals. You're getting the poisons, but on the A2, the first hit will instantly activate all poisons and HP burns on all enemies, and all continuous heal buffs on allies, and then also destroying the HP by up to 60%, and the turn meter fill by 20%, and he's got a speed aura in all battles. And then all the crazy stuff with
this
the
guy was a
in
fusion
A1 as well. Yes, recently, yeah.
This is like the definition of power creep, right? He can increase the durations. He's putting out tons of poisons. He's getting instant activations. Here he's doing basically everything Bad-el-Kazar does on his A3, but also doing weaken and then this extra special thing with HP burn. And I'm guessing, does he put out HP burn from this, or
he doesn't? So you need to pair him with a burner, yeah. But obviously, why this is so effective is even in stuff like the hard mode of Spider, where you're placing like the Hex debuff on the Spiderlings, and then you're combusting with like an R-tack for the burns. You can go double activator strategy for like a speed farm in Spider. So he's opening opportunities for so many like hard mode stuff as well. You could pair him in hard mode Ice Golem with your burner for detonations. Possibilities are endless with this dude, but that's just one example of many. Even with if you want to speak dragon specific, if we go into I think is it the Bannerlords? Yeah, Bannerlords for Stoutest Dragonbane. I'll just give one example.
It's wild that truly you're not lying. That stock character is a POWER-CREPT Bad-el-Kazar. He's like a stronger version. And the fact that he's a fusion, that's pretty promising about the game. fusions, occasionally we'd get a really rockstar fusion when I played, but usually they were definitely not Bad-el-Kazar quality. So that's pretty dang cool.
Yeah,
What's
I
up
guess
with
the
this
one
guy?
thing that Bad-el has that he doesn't is the cleanse, which obviously if you need that, it's fair.
That's
But
true. Yeah.
whenever an enemy places a weakened debuff, decreased defense, or a poison debuff on this champion, reflects them back to the attacker. So on the dragon, you can pretty much just solo it, right? Because you're not taking any poisons, you're deflecting all of them back. So it's like you don't need to
Yeah.
sit there and throw up a poison, and wait for the ticks and wait for yourself to die. This dude's doing it all up until hard mode Dragon 10, right? Easily. And he's great for arena and stuff. Like with so much more to his kit.
So he's doing it all.
Yeah, he's doing it all, and it's such easy entry requirements because he's defense based. You could build him tanky, just sit him there. You can use some crazy nukers to just fly through the waves at your seers, let everyone die, and he's just gonna finish it up in seconds, pretty much. And it goes for so many different ones. Like we got Theodore out there. There's just endless poisoners, and I think going back to what this video is all about is the whole kind of expansion of the game. There wasn't a crazy amount of top tier poisoners back then, which is why Bad-el-Kazar was regarded as the best, right? But now there is so many more that does what he does that he's just a conversation.
Like the strength of a champion or a hero or a character in any of these games comes from being good, but also being like unique and special. So if that
Yeah.
uniqueness and special is kind of tampered down and reduced, then all of a sudden you're just looking at a pretty good character, right? Because if other people are doing what he does, even if it wasn't even better, just also doing it, the scarcity has gone down. It's just more common.
Yeah, when you came to this video idea, it's what my list is based on. So even like the Duchess, like you could see the theme of the scarcity value isn't there anymore. They've got other champions coming in, filling the roles and potentially better. And that's kind of what the list is based on.
Yeah, because you kind of felt like for certain things, like you had to have Bad-el-Kazar, and now it's like you have to have him or like a bunch of other options. So it's really interesting. It's
actually another one you can speak about with Bad-el-Kazar is actually a daily login champion that you get very later on, and she's from the Ogrins as well, I believe, called what's her name? Gerda Bogbrew. On the top list, the 6th champion up there. The scary looking warm of a chick, yeah. So even if you just read that A3, it's pretty much the same as Bad-el-Kazar. Has a chance of removing a random. Yeah, and then places 25% poisons and removes. Yeah. You know, it's a free champion you're going to get with a weaken as well and 10-meter manipulation.
So yeah, I'd say maybe there's even an argument this is like worse than Bad-el-Kazar, but so it's like, but just bring a healer, right? And then you're probably fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much.
What, you got some more for us, or it's
man,
starting to get scary
today, man.
Yeah.
I should have saved these ones for later on, honestly. Okay, we'll turn it down a notch. I'm gonna say Rashgard the Tower. So I guess like I'm pretty sure everyone knows where I'm going with this one. We've got a block damage on a 4-turn cooldown. Yes, you could still enable clan boss teams for your progression and an entry level into your Ultra Nightmare team. The thing is, there's Debuffer in the game, and she's an epic, and she brings it on a 3-turn cooldown. I actually
knew where you were going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, if an epic is doing it better than you, and she does it by herself without requiring like a Warcaster or another block damage champion, you could throw her in with an heiress who's a rare champion and make an unkillable team, pretty much. So for that reason alone, I would say that. And also Helikath came in, right? Helikath is a better Rashgard.
I actually had him. Helikath was, I took a break from playing for a couple months, and that was when the Helikath fusion happened. This was like summer 2021. And then I pulled him right when I got back, and I was very happy because I felt like such a dummy for missing out on him. Yeah, another option, and he was a fusion. So this is 4 turns, not 3 turns, but definitely just a better
same thing. But he's bringing
champion.
Increased defense. He's got a weaken A1. Yeah. He's got stuff for other parts of the game. So yeah, I think he's just a glorified Rashgard the Tower, right? And if you're getting beaten up by epics, you're POWER-CREPT, dude. You know.
Yeah, I think the argument there is like, so you can invest a ton in Rashgard, and then he's still worse than Demitha, where you could have just used epic books and been fine. And then if you want to go legendary, there's just the better legendary option as well, and it was free back in the day. So that one I'm not going to fight you on at all. So
I should have started with these ones. It would have been easier on me.
No, start with the super hot fire. You spit that.
All right. So next up here. Do you know what? We're gonna go Raglin, Bannerlords.
Wow. Okay. So Raglin was I think the only or one of 2 void legendaries I ever pulled on my first account. I never pulled one on my main free to play account. She was really hype when I started playing. I felt like maybe she'd already started falling off a touch. She's got that like spammy revive, right? That's her move. I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say this is the best part of her. A two-turn cooldown, single target revive, amazing. But as we mentioned before with Dawncaller Sabbather, it's a very similar ability, right? And she's an epic, you know. So I think the revival's fine, actually. I don't think it needs to be changed, honestly. It's the other aspects of her kit that needs a bump.
Just want to show Sabbatha really quickly. So here's an epic. It is 4 turns, not 2, but you are getting that
Yeah,
full turn meter, and you're getting that block damage for 2
damage
turns,
for
which is
2 turns.
spicy.
So technically, she's doing it better than Raglin because obviously she gets a better cooldown on the turn meter, but the block damage is going up, so they don't take damage afterwards, which is very important. So, yeah, I guess the revival could. I don't know. Even without that, I think the A2 is my biggest issue. So, removes all debuffs from all allies, heals them based on her attack on a 4-10 cooldown. Like, this is so outdated. Like, Mithrala Lifebane is coming in as a free Hydra champion with a cleanse, shield, strengthen, and hex, and increased defense, increased attack. There's just wild stuff going on for a free chick when this Void Legendary is sitting on some 4-turn cooldown, and it's just night and day between the two. It's just
Shout
night
out
and
to
day.
Mithrala. 8 books,
Yeah,
baby. I've become so
yeah.
sensitive just seeing remembering how scarce the skill ups are in this game. Yeah, you got to say, and I know some people might be watching and being like, YST, you are just like talking about later game, end game stuff, but there's enough info out there. There's enough of a population of good champions that you can get through all this stuff without early investment in these, suboptimal champions. So, like, why would you invest in some of these guys, maybe with these very coveted resources early on, if you know you're gonna get the Mithrala eventually, or you're gonna get the and we talked in your video, but Lydia eventually,
Mhm.
you can hold off for a little longer, can't you? And then really take better advantage.
You could for sure. And even with Raglan, I think she's got the potential. If we just head back to it, like there is the opportunity is there to really put a buff to this champion and make her so worthy in this day and age. And what I would do is I would bring this A2 down to a 3-turn cooldown for starters. I would throw a buff in there. So something like, I don't know, you
Strengthen.
can go block debuffs, increased attack, strengthen, even throw 3 in there. She's a void legendary, for God's sake. If Radler's doing it, throw her in a couple buffs, right?
I think probably what happened with Raglin, she was in the game well in the game, not new when I started playing. So she might even be like an OG champ or close to it. I think it's very likely there were far fewer Void Legendaries. They said, hey man, it's full turn meter and 3/4 health on a 2-turn cooldown. That's enough.
Yeah. It was
But
crazy
I
back
think
then, but if you click the reviews, since they rechanged it, they actually reset all the
right.
reviews in the game. Bottom left.
Oh
Look at
my
that.
god. Yeah. So she's become just like a holy crap. I hit a Void Legendary and this is who I got.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I feel like if they change that A2, give her some buffs with a nice cleanse and all the stuff she's doing already on a 3-turn, but also give her a passive. That's what she's missing, in my opinion, the
Yeah.
most. She needs
Yeah.
something that's gonna stand her out from the rest of the champions in the game. I don't know off the top of my head what I would create around it, but a really cool passive is what make or breaks these champions, and most of the most powerful ones in the game is passives.
Yeah, like off the top of my head, right? Like a way you could maybe get it going. Make this increase attack and strengthen. Something kind of unique, kind of funky, right? It doesn't have to be
Yep.
so OP, like increase attack and increase defense. That, increase attack, increase strengthen. And then maybe here we've got this kind of funky, weird skill that you're not even going to use that much. Attacks one enemy 3 times, fills the turn meter. It's okay. Maybe the passive is if an ally has their turn meter filled by this hero, they get a little heal or something like that. Maybe it doesn't make her
Yes.
OP, but it adds a little spice. There's probably a lot more creative funds passives, but yeah, you can kind of see. Would you say she's a big buff candidate based on these glowing reviews?
She's in desperate. She's on the. If I'm surprised that in the next buffed list they do not include Raglin because it's been so overdue. It's ridiculous at this point for a
So
void
she's
legendary.
borderline. Whenever I see a champion like this, because Raid is much better if you're coming from Watcher Realms at consistently buffing. I know people in Raid don't feel like that because you have such a big champion pool, but at least it does happen consistently. I always like to key in on like that's a buff candidate character. Like if you
Yeah,
pull her, maybe you don't have to be too distraught because it's possible her kit is so outdated you might be in for a little treat.
it's almost indefinite. Like I can just see it coming around the corner. Honestly, the more that we speak about it, obviously, hopefully, kick them up a bit. They see the video and
Yeah.
like put it to the front.
Perfect. You got anything else for us? Some
Oh
really,
man,
really great stuff so far.
yeah, I'm trying to include the ones that I think would hold a really cool conversation. I guess. Do you know? I'm gonna go Mountain King dwarfs. He's an OG.
Wow. Okay. I remember Mountain King well. He's that big old nuker. I remember people would run 2 Mountain Kings in Arena back in the day. He
There was
actually
actually a
got a
video that
buff
Ash did.
from.
Ash did a
Oh,
video
did
with I think he did 4 Mountain Kings in Arena and called it the Stonewall. It's crazy, yeah.
That is
But
crazy.
man, I guess he once again similar to the Raglin, he's got potential in this current day. And what I would do to him is on the A3. First of all, it's a 4-turn cooldown for a single target ability. But in this day and age, he needs to be ignoring Stone Skin, Strengthen. He needs to be ignoring then just a shield and a block damage. It's so outdated. Bring up some of the more meta buffs that we're seeing nowadays. Make him ignore those. Give him some more ignore defense on his A3 as well. It's definitely needed. And on the A2, I would probably do honestly, you could just be like, if he kills an enemy, resets the cooldown of this skill, right? Ignore Stone Skin. Like, he needs to have some kind of turbocharge his kit, bring him round to his skills again, and he's just a nuisance if you allow him to kill you in a sense. And I think that's what he's missing as a champion in this current day.
Basically, it's a similar theme to Raglin. This is like a real OG legendary hero. I think he did have a light buff at one point when I was playing, but you can't really get too stoked about ignoring shields and block damage when, since his introduction in this kit was finalized, they've added so many other things. Like you said, like this isn't useful in a meta dominated by Stone Skin, and when you have all these other things.
Yeah.
So add a couple things, maybe this one, I mean, he's a legendary, maybe ignore all buffs. I don't know. And then it can stay at the 4-turn cooldown.
With a one-trick pony, right? Like, he's not got much to offer here, Raid. It's like, just give him a full ignore defense, right? Crazy stuff. Ignore all protection effects, but it's a one-time ability, You're basically sitting down whoever he puts his hands on. So I think that'd be a really cool thing. That's what Mountain King should be, honestly. That's what he should be.
Yeah, it feels like it wouldn't even be that overpowered. It's not like he's going to dominate the whole game all of a sudden. You could also do with this, right? Maybe this needs to have an ignored Stone Skin, as you said, or something, because this special thing from this, or even this, is like he gets to go again when he gets that kill. But if he's not getting that kill, he's not doing that much. He's just sitting there as an absolute slowpoke with really high stats.
It's a shame, though. He's one of the best looking champs in the game, even for an old figure.
He is.
He's badass.
I gotta say, though, I mean, this is like, what would you call this? What's lower than 320p? I mean, what is this hair? It looks like, this looks like Minecraft. Anyone just pause it and like go and squint and look. It looks like a Minecraft render. All right. Do we have a few more? I mean, this list is taking us in every which direction.
Yeah, I'm trying to like get a different range of champions. So we go next one. I'm gonna go Septimus. That's probably someone you remember, right? Enemy max HP.
Septimus, a little max HP god when I was playing. Someone I never was lucky enough to get and always wanted. So what happened to Septimus? Because I mean, this thing's a slapper.
Septimus has been sat down by a lot of champions. Don't get me wrong, can still be a nice little one-trick pony with some enemy max HP. But unfortunately, there's champions in the game, such as Newt from the Dwarves faction. Have you heard of him?
I've heard of Newt even well before I was going to come back to Raid, because people would talk to me about how brutal that fusion was and how happy they were that Watcher Realms has easy fusions.
Yeah, so Newt came into the game and he basically has an enemy max HP ability, but he does it as a 3-time hitter. Like, it's basically Septimus times 3, right? On steroids. So it's just night and day. And there's also like a Marius in the game who has a triple hit, but there's Newt, yeah. So that Blessed Bash on the A3, like the difference. And he's also manipulating defense on the same ability and heals himself. And it's a crazy boss slayer. We've also got A1 freeze for finite hard. We've got decrease attack and weaken from the A2. He's doing 100% damage when counterattacking. Like him, and then also Marius from the Skinwalkers. She's got an AoE triple hit, enemy max HP.
I would say with Marius, it's hard to call that power creep. Isn't this like the hardest champion in the game to get your hands on?
It's definitely a lot easier for... I just can't remember if... Maybe someone in the comments can let me know if they coincide with the Romantu missions or if you have to complete Romantu first. I can't remember if they can kind of coexist. But yeah, this is the one that was released.
I was under the
Romantu.
impression, because I mean, my early young account here, I'm on Arbiter and I can't do the Romanto missions. And then it looks like you're right. So once you get through Arbiter, you can do these together. Okay, fair point. So you're saying you can get her faster.
Yeah, because they coexist. You could, if you really wanted to, if you've got the power on your account to beat the encounters they're telling you in the missions, you can get around to Mario. It wouldn't take years. I've seen people get way quicker than that. Free champion, someone you can get in the end, but when we talk about power creep, we've got triple hit enemy max HP, crazy extra turn potentials, increased accuracy, and feeble to make these champions weak hit. There's there's just crazy stuff. One of the,
Actually, what is? I don't know what enfeeble is. This is a new debuff. What does it do?
Yeah, so and feeble basically the wearer can only weak hit.
So guaranteed that next turn is going to be a weak hit as long as the debuff's on.
Yeah.
I was just say, is that a debuff other people have, or is it unique to Marius?
The panda has it, Bambus Four Leaf. He's got it.
Okay.
But it cannot be placed on bosses, and that's one thing that actually changed. Initially, I think they actually allowed the feeble to be on bosses, and it was too broken, and then they had to change it. That's pretty crazy, yeah.
This seems like a worthy reward. She seems crazy.
Arguably the best champion in the game. But just to put it into perspective, like I was mentioning, like I think just the multi-hits of these enemy max HPs from people in the same rarity being legendaries has just pushed someone like Q into the back. And, you know, especially with the cap on the max HP, why are you going to build a Septimus when you can build a Royal Guard for Epic Books who does it AoE?
It's in the later stages of dungeon. You can't do more than 10%. So you want multiple times, multiple hits that you can do it. Or just use the epic because it's going to max out anyway. Yeah. So it's just like, he just falls off a cliff.
Yeah, I'd say up to like stage 20 dungeons, pretty good. Past that, you can get away with your cold hearts, you know, your Royal Guards, because they're bringing more than just max HP. You're getting decreased speed, turn meter reduction, heal reductions.
That's a good point. He really is that one-trick pony, right? He'll ignore the shield and block damage, which, like we said, is kind of not enough nowadays. He's got that single hitter max HP. And this is like kind of cool. If you get the kill with the A1, then you can reset the cooldown over here. Kind of nice, get the extra turn. But is he hitting hard enough? It seems like maybe no compared to some of these other guys.
Yeah, they're just coming in and doing crazy stuff. And then we're not even going to get into the mythicals. I was going to try exclude those today because that's just a whole complete...
We saved the mythicals if we want to run it back. But any final final guys we got to get to?
We do a final two. One, I'm going to say is borderline. It's a stretch. I'm scared to do it, but I've already said the Duchess stuff. I'm going to say someone like Martyr has been power-crept. Counterattack.
Okay, so let me actually give you a hot take. When I was coming back, and I was like, I knew there was mythicals now. I knew everyone had a million empowerments. Is that Martyr came to mind as someone that could have been power crept. I always felt it was crazy that she had counterattack, right? And so when I was playing, only 3 champions did. But if anyone else did, I'm curious to hear what you're going to say because I always felt like there was maybe a little. Not enough going on in some of this kit.
Yeah, she's a really good champion. Actually, someone I've never pulled in 6 years or 5 years of playing this game. Never pulled her. But the issue is, this is the one mythical I will mention. Alaz came into the game from the Barbarians. And if you to your question, by the way, there is only still like 2 legendary counterattacks, Valkyrie and Martyr, and then Skullcrusher for counter. Until this dude came
There's
along.
only 3 in the whole game.
Oh, apart from this dude, yeah. Yeah. So if we read his A3 right on his base form, places a provoke debuff on a target enemy for 2 turns, cannot be resisted, places counterattack on all allies, and a block damage on all allies in the same ability on a 3-turn cooldown once booked. But he too also brings an increased defense on the A2. He can smack like a truck. He's got so much stuff, and that's not to mention the scaling with his passive because increases defense by 5% each time they counterattack, up to 100%, which is crazy. And then his alternate form, he's bringing in like burns and ignoring crazy stuff and strengthens and increased resistance. So when you got a champion like Alaz in town, Martyr gets kicked down if you get the luxury of pulling it.
It's funny. I mean, this guy seems completely bonkers. Not the kind of power creep I expected. That just like a mythical just rises. I'm kind of blown away that there's no other counterattack here. So they've added 1 in like the 3 years since I've been really following the game, and it's a mythical that I would assume 99.98% of people will never get or something like that.
Yeah, they've got quirky champions that came into the game, such as like Gallius Bloodcrest. If you read his A2, he's if anyone likes a massive cock, here he is. So he basically does like a self counter attack. So there's some champions that's come in where it's like they're self-setting themselves up, and that's enabling his A1 to deliver enemy max HP hits. So there's kind of like quirky self uses for counter. But as of AoEs, there's not. I don't know what the issue is. They just don't want to bring more in outside of Alaz. Yeah.
I guess then you could see. Would you say she's still like inferior to Valkyrie?
I would still choose Valkyrie over her. Just the sizable shield, I think, is can be a lot helpful because these effects like decrease attack, provoke, you can find that elsewhere if you really wanted to, right? Let's be honest. And increased defense is quite a common buff. So I guess if you need it for clan boss, still great, but I would still lean towards Valkyrie for the protection and then lean to other champs to kind of bring the other buffs and
I
debuffs.
think this is a good example of if you got her anywhere close to early, completely broken game changing, because you are getting a lot of, though accessible debuffs and buffs, you're getting it all in one spot with the counterattack. However, later on, when you've got all these options and you can really design your teams, maybe you outgrow her a little bit, right?
Yeah. Oh, and another enemy max HP I didn't mention, by the way, was from before when we speak about Newt, is Warmaster Thorion. Want to keep an eye out on from the High Elves.
Wow, he
Yeah.
is this is a hero. This is a champion.
Yeah. So if we think about back to Septimus again, like if we look at this guy's A2, it's just attacks all enemies, places block buffs, decrease attack, turn meter fields, and
Yeah.
enemy max HP, double hitter. Like it's just crazy,
So
man.
Septimus is doing 1 hit. He's doing 2 hits. Oh, and by the way, fill the turn meter, put out the block buffs, put out the decrease attack, just get it all going. Yeah, it's kind of no contest. And it's 3-turn cooldown, not 4-turn cooldown.
Yeah, and it's AoE as well, not some single target stuff.
Septimus just feels old.
Yeah, he's an old one. He's definitely in that Raglin situation, right? A final one. Let's make it spicy, YST. We're on Fastidious channel. Vizier Ovelis. Let's take it old school. That's the theme of the video.
Vizier. Okay, so
Yeah.
Vizier, I remember Vizier well. He just extends debuffs forever. So he was just the sweet little god back in the day.
One of my favorite champions in the game of all time, and I just wish they would show him some love because he was one of the first champs to take me to Ultra Nightmare. The A1 is not unique anymore. Back to the scarcity value. With Vault Keeper Wixwell in the game and so much power creep and clan boss becoming easier over time with just the amount of stuff you can bring into the team. You just don't really have the need to just spam an A1 anymore, especially when you've got some other options I'm going to speak about. But then the rest of the kit, like 75% to place these debuffs and 4-turn cooldowns, and there's just a lot of clunkiness and old-fashioned stuff going on here. He does have some rare case niche uses with someone like Astrolith, who's a bomb champion, where you kind of place like the non-resistible bomb on an enemy in arena, then you debuff spread effect it with Vizier and place the bombs on everybody. So there is some cool meta picks going on. But aside from that, he's an A1 bot, and he shouldn't be like that in 2025.
Kind of sleep on the rest of the kit, though the debuff spread is unique. Who else is doing this, did you say? Because this was strictly unique. The idea that there was an A1 where basically you were guaranteed every time to extend the debuffs.
The champion that swooped in for me to replace Vizier Ovelis is from the Skinwalkers called Gwendolyn, the Silent.
Okay.
Actually, one of my favorite looking champs in the game. She's an owl.
Oh, I love it. I love this.
The A1 is basically Vizier, right? Obviously, what we spoke about Vizier is he doesn't bring a crazy universal value for many areas of the game besides that. But then now we're leading into the A2. AoE, decrease speed, AoE leech, decrease accuracy, A3, increase accuracy.
Let me guess, Hydra?
No, actually, Chimera and Hydra actually, yeah, as well. Chimera's the new clan boss that came in, and she is enabling so many trials for that. And also great for clan boss. You're getting leech in there, you know? You're getting your decrease accuracy if you need it. Pretty good. And increase accuracy.
And then she's got all this too. Yeah, this is she's just better Vizier because the A1 is literally identical. I think they both book up to 50% on a triple hitter.
And what I like about her is as well, she's actually a nice AoE damage dealer aside bringing this utility. So one thing that's really hard for a player just in general is trying to reach the accuracy stats whilst also getting the damage stats. And what she does very well is she brings the increased accuracy buff, but then also through her passive, for every 10 points of accuracy, she's increasing her crit damage by 1%.
Wow.
And she also grants an extra turn for every 3 uses of a skill. So she's snowballing her effects, dealing damage, crucial debuffs, and a debuff extender A1. Wow. And it's a pretty cool one to come into the game.
This might be so of all the new heroes, it's not like I went through the whole index, but I just found one in arena that I was facing who was my new most wanted. I think she might have just supplanted him, and I'll tell you, he's also a skinwalker if I can find him. Where is he? Where's my rabbit boy? No, this guy.
Oh, you said Razovak.
He's so cool.
He was actually a fusion. You missed.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I guess probably for Easter, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he's an Easter fusion, but he's you're right, he's top tier.
I just love that he's this little speedster, crazy all battles, and then all these other things with the triple hitters and getting him going. The AoE leech, which I guess she has too. I like that he's scaling off of speed. That's so funky. And then this increased speed with the increased accuracy. I was like, if I pulled him today, he could carry me so far. I really want to get an increased accuracy buffer. That's why I was so sad that I realized I'm not going to be able to go for this fusion. I remember when I started my free-to-play series, it was with the introduction of increased accuracy, and it was my boy Yoshi, who I made such a point to get. And I've got to say, I was very comfortably able to get Yoshi, and now it seems like Esme, I have no shot. So that seems like there's been a little power creep on the difficulty of the fusions as well.
I think, fun fact, I think he was the first legendary that brought it, but he wasn't the first champion. I think the first one that brought is actually a trash epic from the Knights Revenant called Pestilus. I think you remember
Oh,
that dude.
really? I
Yeah,
do,
he's
and
a
I
little.
actually think they were the same time, if I'm not mistaken, because I think it was right when I was starting that series. But
It could have been,
fair
yeah.
point, fair shout, fair shout. Yeah, Pestilus. I remember thinking he was going to be legitimately good, and then I remember being wrong.
He needs a buff as well, but that's just another conversation.
Yeah, but I definitely want Gwendolyn. I think she's my new favorite, so thank you for that. She's my top of my list. Who is our last one?
I was gonna say something crazy, but I don't know how
Yeah,
people are
you
gonna
do it.
take it.
You have to. You
And
have
I'll
to.
save that as an honorable because it's very similar to the first pick I did with Scarhide, so I'll talk about that just very briefly
I'll bring us
afterwards.
full circle. That's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Norog, the pig. If we just look at the A2, first of all, Uugo does it better, right? From the jump, it's an AoE
Yeah.
block buffs, magic affinity, and that's all this champion is doing. Aside that, he's immune to stun, freeze, and sleep. I think to make this champion current with the day, I would make him also immune to True Fear. So in the Hydra Blast, he can counter the Head of Torment and being a reliable block buffs to go through that. I also would give him another effect alongside block buffs like decreased speed. Will be very nice for Norog. And then on the A1, I would like to do a single target debuff. Block active still relevant for stuff like Chimera, but maybe even like an A1 decrease attack, and it goes to all enemies if the initial attack is critical, similar to like a Paydema or something.
I think those would be very reasonable changes. The
Yeah,
last one would make him pretty strong. I feel like what you're kind of getting at, this is reading like dog water. Like he's completely like he's a big disappointment to pull. Like it turns gold and then it feels like a fart, right? But this, I feel the suggestion, yeah, get rid of the true fear thing, and then just what was that? What was the other thing you said? Yeah, add the decreased speed. Now all of a sudden you don't have
decrease
to be
speed. Yeah,
disappointed. He's finding his way into a Hydra team, right? So at the very least, he's got a clear and obvious use. Whereas right now you're like, there's no shot, right? I guess he barely
yeah.
reads, but I mean, come on.
There's no world where you'd build this dude over Uugo, right? There's just no
Yeah,
way.
totally, absolutely.
All right.
All right,
So the full
I'm
circle.
ready.
Are you ready? This is I think this is
I'm
the most
so ready.
scariest one.
So only the people that made it
Uh,
to the end, shout out in the comments who made it to the end. You will be rewarded with this madness.
I'm sorry, guys. I have to do it though. I think Scylla the Drakes takes an L on this one.
Yeah, people are gonna be pissed off. I'm getting a little angry. I guess I'm like
Yeah.
a couple months away from her, so I don't have to be too worried. But wow, okay, explain yourself.
Okay, so with Scylla the Drakes, I still think she's a very good champion for where we get her, right? But the whole point of this video is power creep. And if a fusion like Amans the Magnificent is coming into the game with 100% stun, 100% 10 meter steel, and sheep, and all the crazy stuff, it's just uncomparable, for a legendary champion. And with the A2, it's a, what is that, 35% two-time hitter, I think, for this current day. It's not good enough. It just needs to be at least 50% each hit to be reliable for me. And then also the revival, revive a single ally on a 4-turn cooldown. Like we mentioned earlier, we'd have to go back to it, but Dawncaller Sabbather and Epic is doing this pretty much, maybe even better than this, because she's not putting herself at jeopardy, right? She's just placing block damage for 2 turns. And
I
she's an
think
Epic.
definitely Sabbatha is doing it better. Yeah,
Yeah, full 10 meter as well, And this is an Epic pulling this out the bag. So when you start thinking about it as an overall now, what's Scylla the Drake's bringing that's so remarkable in 2025? Like an A1, like crappy chance to place decreased speed worse than Stagnite. We got some crappy chance to place a stun unless you build her in a stun set. It's still decent for progression. And then a revival that's just comparable to epics nowadays. I think she's got the foundations to be a really good champion still. What I'm kind of fetching for is higher chance on the stun for players. Like even in the same faction, Hoskarul's in there as an epic, and he's coming through with an AoE 75% chance to place a stun. On his A2, 75% chance of pushing back turn meter and placing a stun. This is better than what Scylla's bringing on the A2, and it's like if you can bring like a Dawncaller and a Hoskarul being epics, they're doing what Scylla's doing by herself, right?
I guess the argument is, especially when you get her, unless you're progressing rapidly, she's doing a lot in one kit, especially when you throw in the passive that you get the little heals, you get her going nice and quick, and then you get those
Yep.
increased speeds out. So it is nice, and it's like, yeah, there are better revives, but at least she's doing it. Yeah, clearly there's better stuns, but at least she's doing it. Yeah, there's definitely better decreased speed, but at least she's doing it. So I just feel like she's wearing enough hats. she's very much, I like to say when we get a really hype hero in Watcher Realms or something, I'll be like, he's a jack of all trades. He's a master of all trades. She's very much just the jack of all trades, or maybe even like a 10, not even a jack.
I think with all the power creep in the game, I think the conversation might have to change a little bit, because it's all about the catch-up mechanic for me, right? Like, how much can you catch up to, start competing and get into the end game?
It's
and
true. Yeah.
These chances are just not very similar to the Rosin, like we mentioned, and we're bringing it full circle. I think the kit is good. I think she needs to be enhanced in terms of the chances it is to place these effects. So if a player invests in it in 2025, there's not a chance to roll it. She's doing it, She's bringing you that definitive stun all of the time, and she's reliable and now worth your books. And that's kind of what I'm advocating for, is just higher chances of what she already does.
The way you phrase that, I really like, because it's like, this is your freebie. You've made it 6 months playing Raid Shadow Legends. You're trying to get to a point where people are at that have been playing 6-7 years. Throw them a bone. It needs to be a little. It needs to be a little more substantial. I think that's great. Yeah, like she's just a hero you could pull. She's just a champion. It's kind of fine, but she always, at least when I played, was like, that was the big, like, crown jewel login reward, getting her on day 180. And now that it kind of does feel like, well, is she really 100% still worth it? Is this really enough? Is this really going to accelerate my progress? I think you're making some good points.
But you have to speak about these things, because like with Armand's again, like we've read her A2, now look, here's A2 and she heals a fusion, right? So are you going to build a Scyl of the Drakes if you've got this? I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see a world where you would, but yeah,
the
I
argument
guess
being a lot of people don't have him if they miss the fusion, but a lot of people didn't. And also, now that he's out there, can you confidently invest in Scyl of the Drakes knowing fusions like him exist and can be coming?
So for you as a player, right, if you just came into the game, or not just coming to the game, you've been playing for like 6 months, let's say Scyl of the Drakes wasn't a login reward, right? If you summon Scyl of the Drakes, would you invest your resources?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's far less a no-brainer than it was previously. Previously, it was almost definitely, at the very least, you knew there'd be, X, Y, and Z teams she'd be fitting into. But now, do you actually do the books, or do you hold out knowing there's just a lot better stuff out there and a lot better free stuff out there?
Yeah, but as a freebie, good champion, deserves a bit of love on the things. I think overall a really good champion kit, because reminds me of a Stag Knight, bringing in fundamentals, crowd control, decreased speed, revivals. Just do it to a better value, better chances, and that's it.
Yeah, she doesn't have to be broken OP, but she just needs more consistency. All right, I got to say, the good news, the bad news. Let's start with the bad news. We said let's keep it under an hour. Maybe good news. We're at 59 minutes, 47 seconds. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
The good news, I thought I had a blast. This was awesome, and I could not have learned more. So thank you so much. I hope you guys appreciated YST's knowledge as well. Let us know in the comments, and absolutely go subscribe to his channel. Any final thoughts? Maybe you want to calm people down that have already been trying to dox you, find your address, burn your house down kind of thing?
All right. I'm sorry, guys, if I upset you, but as I mentioned at the start of the video, I think I gave the disclaimer anyway. Like, I'm not saying that any of these champions are bad. It's just about advocating for where they should be in the current age. Like, turn the cooldowns. It's all about, trying to make the champions that we all love and grew up on better, just to compete with what's out there at the moment. And that's kind of the aim for a video like this, giving some ideas out there. Maybe you guys in the comments can let us know some other champions that's been power crept, and we'll keep an eye out for those. And I guess just overall, I appreciate you having me on. Well overdue.
We used to go back and forth a lot in DMs. You'd hop by my streams. It's crazy to think about. I don't know if you remember this. When I started streaming, you're like, oh, it's really cool that you're streaming. I don't think I'm going to start streaming it because I'm too small. You're certainly not too small now. I've seen some of your streams on YouTube absolutely popping off. So it's just awesome to be here. We both found different paths, but we both kind of made a job out of this. So yay us. Yeah. And this is really fun.
Yeah, no, also congratulations to you, like all your success. Like, of course, I don't play Watcher of Realms, but I dabbled into it for a while. But of course, I subscribed to you from when you first, I played it for about 6 months or so. I was into it. But I do.
You should tell me.
I've been watching your channel here and there, I like to just see like new champions that come out in games. They're just something I enjoy doing, seeing mechanics and comparing a bit. But seeing you crush it over there and then coming back to Raid as well, just congrats on all the success, man. Keep it crushing.
Thank you, sir.
Let's go.
Congrats on what you're doing here. Look out for YST. If you just want like really high-end advice, I mean, this guy writes the ratings and the reviews and the guides on hellhades.com. What more do you need to know? Thank you, guys. Thank you, YST. Share it with your mother, and we'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.